Hello everyone and welcome to another Halloween / fall decorate with me video. In today's video I am decorating the kitchen. I'm gonna do like a cottage witch style kitchen, and I'm also decorating my entryway and my dining room, which is going to be like a Colonial Sleepy Hollow vibes dining room. I started with this corner cabinet. I put these pumpkin mugs that I got last year in the bottom, and these brown print teacups in the top, and this copper jack-o'-lantern bucket on the very top of the cabinet. And if you're interested in this cabinet, it was very easy to put together, and I'll link it. It's from Amazon. I filled this jar with tea. It's like the little jar that I got from the thrift store, and this antique tin that has these mushrooms on it. And I did have the frog over by the sink, but I thought he looked so cute on this, and he just looks perfect in this corner. Then on the stove, I put out my pumpkin crock, which I've actually found at a thrift store, even though it's Pioneer Woman. I only paid like $5, and my copper teapot, and this wooden cutting board that has these gold leaves on it. And I thought the kitchen looked a little bit bare, so I decided to get this pumpkin patch sign and just see how it looked. And I just thought that it added some color and depth to the kitchen that it really needed. A witch cottage kitchen would not be complete without some hanging florals, so I picked up a bunch of these at Trader Joe's. I believe they were $5.99 a piece, and I got my twine, and I just wound it around the stems and created a little loop for hanging up before cutting the flowers out of the bag. And I hung them up on the wooden hooks that are at the end of the cabinets in my kitchen. At first, I hung up the Sleepy Hollow Farm pumpkin sign, but it just wasn't doing it for me. So I decided to hang up this antique autumn painting that I found for $12 at a thrift store, and it just looks so perfect with the kitchen. In the little hallway by the kitchen, I hung this holder up from Hobby Lobby, and I also picked up this platter at Hobby Lobby with the deer and the mushrooms. I just thought it was so cute. And I usually hang a wreath on my pantry door, but I decided to just hang this witch broom over my apron. And for the centerpiece on my island, I kept the wooden cake stand that I usually use, and I'm just going to put a large pumpkin on top with some greenery around it. Just simple. I added my pumpkin pie plate and a candle holder with a white pumpkin on top. And then I added a little wreath with a felt pumpkin inside of that on the other side of the stove. And my witch cottage kitchen is complete. Now it's time to start on dinner in the crock pot. I just added some frozen chicken breasts into the crock pot with a whole container of chicken bone broth. And I added some bay leaves. And I added a bunch of salt because I always find that my soup is never salty enough. So I decided to add a little more salt than usual. And then I also added this onion salt from Trader Joe's, which is delicious. It tastes kind of like ranch. Some ground cumin and some rosemary. And there's just no method to this. I totally made this recipe up. I added some diced onions and a bag of pre-chopped butternut squash. And to make it extra folly, I added half a can of pure pumpkin puree. And for a little bit of thickness and extra flavor, I added half a jar of Alfredo sauce. Then it was time to decorate my entryway. I bought this dollhouse at the thrift store for like $2. I'm going to spray paint it black to make a haunted house. I got this Magnolia Home blackboard spray paint. And I just made sure I coated it really well. And I just love how the details pop as soon as I painted it black. Now it looks like a Gothic haunted Victorian mansion. I also picked up this carriage at a thrift store. I'm going to also paint it black. And I don't show it here, but I also bought a little horse figurine at the thrift store. It was actually a unicorn. I took the horn off and painted it black so it can pull the carriage. And on my entryway table, I just put out some greenery. I left my little landscape painting behind just to add some height. To make my carriage look a little more spooky, I added some like feathery little pieces to the top just coming out. And for just a little pop of color, I added a pumpkin to the front of the house. I added the little ghost banner that I got from TJ Maxx earlier in the year to the front, and I just love the way this entryway table turned out. After about 6 hours, I went and shredded up all of the chicken and I added it back into the crock pot. And I also thought it needed a little bit more fall flavor, so I just added a little bit of cinnamon, and that did the trick, and that made this taste absolutely delicious. Then it was time to do the dining room, and I had so many things. I honestly had no idea like what direction I was going to go in. I just know that I wanted it to look kind of colonial. I didn't know what was going where, so I just cleared everything off and wiped everything down and just started fresh, just putting random things into places until I liked the way it looked. I love these green and white print dishes that I got at a thrift store a while back. And the green and white plates underneath, they are not from the same set. They're actually two different shades of green, but I just feel like they go together so well. And I like adding green elements into my fall decor. And I just laid out a leaf garland and placed this silver antique tray on top. They had these like berry things in the garland, so I just pulled those out. And then I hung this orange tone garland from the chandelier. I decided to put this crock out as the centerpiece because it had that little like colonial feel. I added a burnt orange pumpkin to each plate on the table. And I also added a bunch of corn and these fake corn husks just to make it look kind of harvesty. I added these black checkered pillows to each end of the table. And in this corner, I have my headless horseman statue and my chair that I got from a thrift store. And I just added this chenille yellow blanket to it and this empty basket. I had no idea what I was going to put in it, so just to add some height, I added these books. I got this violin a while back and I thought that it would look really good in here. And then I just kind of started adding a bunch of stuff, adding some fillers to create height, pumpkins, flowers. On one of the walls, I've had these hanging up like since we moved into the house. It was one of the first things I put up in the dining room. I switched it out for this wooden piece and I just put this autumn wreath hanging on top of it. I bought this at an antique store. It's historic Williamsburg in Virginia, and I just thought it would tie in wonderfully with my whole colonial theme. So I just put this on the wall and hung it above the wooden piece. I took the two sconces that I had taken down and I just added them on either side of that platter in the little hallway. And then instead of candles, I placed these little pumpkins on top of the candle holders. Over by the windows in the dining room, I have this like antique school bench. The bottom part broke off, so I just fill it with this pillow and then I put a blanket over it. I just switched the blanket out to this checkered one to match the cushions. And then I added this mustard yellow pillow and this velvet pumpkin. Of course, I added a witch broom in the corner. To add one final touch to the dining room, I decided to add more hanging flowers from the corners of this window. And I just feel like it tied the whole thing together. And now that the decorating was done, it was time to sit down to a nice hot bowl of this butternut squash pumpkin soup, and it was just the perfect end to the day. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in my next video, and have a beautiful fall. Bye.